So I'm super excited. I've been wanting to do this for a while. As I said in an earlier post today, that there's a survey out that says that 21% of Americans will make some sort of 2025 resolution. And 21% of the people making those resolutions would do one around finances or around budget. So I'm really excited to kind of begin to have a conversation with all of you, but particularly with my friend KC. KC, do you want to tell the people who you are and where you are?
Yes, man. My name is KC. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I am the founder of All Hustle University. So it's basically a stock investment chat that I've created for like-minded people that just want to learn about investing. We go over the basics. So I have new members and advanced members. We talk about ETFs, we talk about cryptocurrency, we talk about real estate, all things investing, and we even give like sometimes a lot of like tax tips and things like that. So I have people inside of my chat that are experts at different things. So we definitely are always looking for new members. Last year I took about 100 members. I think in 2025 I'll take about 100 more. So feel free to utilize the information that we're going to share here today. If you want to join, hit Toni up or let me know.
Oh, hit Toni up. Don't call me.
Hit Bulldagger Chronicles. But you can follow me on at Heartbreak Sade or either All Hustle University.
So let's back up for a second. Is there a fee for your university? I'm asking questions.
Yeah, there is a fee. There is a fee.
What row? Go ahead. How much does it cost to become a financial guru in your class?
So it costs us about $60 a month. But so that entails just kind of hands-on help 24/7. So I'm always available. I do one-on-one classes, things like that. So say like it's something that you don't understand, you're like, hey, I really need some more help. You just hit me up on there or ask the chat, and then we can get on something like this, like a Zoom or a live, and then I kind of break it down for you.
Well, I mean, how did you start this thing? How did you start that? And say it slow, because you say you live in Atlanta, but you talk like you're from New York. You talk so fast. I thought I talk fast till I heard you.
Oh, you're trying to get me today. I see. Yeah, I do talk fast. Okay, so this is gonna sound really insane, but I started investing because I wanted a Rolex. Plain is
one like that.
Now I got one. It's over there though. But
yeah, you wanted one like that.
Yeah. I wanted a presidential. I wanted one.
The presidential is the expensive one, ladies and gentlemen. I'm in the 15K. The presidential is like 30K.
Yeah. So so it started in 2019. I seen a lot.
Wait, stop. What's the name of your chat and what's the name of your group?
All Hustle University.
All Hustle University. Is it allhustleuniversity.com.org, or can I go to a website, or do I have to text you something to get something from All Hustle University?
Nope. So you can just go to allhustleuniversity.com and then it'll pull right up. So I actually have a course, and then I also have a chat. So the course is separate. So the course, it basically is a standalone. It breaks down every detail of the market, like what type of accounts open up, what's a bear market, what's a bull market, kind of break down terminologies and things like that. And then it gives like stock picks on how to pick stocks. My chat is more so the 24/7 kind of hands-on help. We do options trading, we do crypto investing, we give like motivational speeches. Say like you're on the edge and you're like, I don't know if I want to sell or hold. We kind of provide detailed advice on what to do.
Okay. And so is it it's a for-profit, it's not a non-profit.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So all Hustle University.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. And so when you started All Hustle University, you said in 2019, and you started it because you wanted a presidential. Did you get the presidential?
Well, not yet. So the thing about investing is you start off wanting those kind of materialistic things, and then you get into it and you realize it's way deeper than receiving like tangible things. So now I can get it, but of course my money is still invested in the market during this time. So, when we're back in a bear market, then I'll probably go get the watch. But right now we're in prime time.
Right. So now, before we get to what a bear and bull market is, I promised the people that we were going to kind of start slow, stick them go in the low end or the shallow end of the pool. Then we're going to go mid pool, and then we're going to go high diving. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk about, is that, so we're coming out of 2024. And so what I wanted to talk a bit about was what's important for people to save or to do before they get to 2025 or before they get to filing their taxes in 2025. And one of the things that we know is that a lot of people have a 401k at their job and they don't max out. Can we talk a minute about kind of what some of the things are that people can do at the end of 2024 to decrease their tax liability, number one, but also to make sure that they're not leaving money on the table? One of the things I always say is that when people don't max out their 401k, you've just left free money on the table. If your employer is giving you any kind of match, you should take it to the maximum. Can you talk about, does the university talk about that at all, or do any work in that space at all, 401ks?
Yeah, we review 401k. So basically, you want to make sure that if you do have a 401k and you're not self-employed, that you're receiving the match that your job gives. At this point, sometimes it's 6%, sometimes it's 8% or less, or sometimes it's higher. So you just want to make sure that you look through your documents and your paperwork during onboarding or during renewal for your 401k, and just make sure that you're getting those matches. There's also something called an HSA account. That's basically for your medical expenses. So money will get deducted from your paycheck and go into maybe like a debit card, and then you can utilize that to either pay for medical expenses or you can invest that money. So a lot of people don't know that you can actually invest some of that money when it gets to a certain amount.
Right. And that's one of those health accounts. A lot of people also don't know that they can roll that money over. They think that money ends at the end of the year, and that money is tax deductible. So you can take, if you're getting ready to take a big tax hit, one of the things we always suggest you do is, again, max out that health savings account, max out that 401k account. Now, I had looked it up earlier, and I want to go back to it now, is that there is a maximum amount of money that you can put into a 401k. And I want, is it like 23,000?
Yeah, it's about, you're right. It's like 23,000 and some change, but it's about 23,000. That's like the max.
Right.
So you're able to kind of like max that out for the year. And then you can utilize other things. Like if you have a Roth IRA account, you can do the 7 max.
Right. So say more. Don't do, because again, that we have people out there who probably have Roth IRAs, that have 401ks, that have health savings accounts. And what I want to do tonight is slow this way down, because I think a lot of people, again, leave a lot of money on the table. One thing is that you said that a lot of these 401ks are at 6 and 8%, but most of because I'm in the nonprofit sector in my day job, and those are usually around 2 to 4%. So should folks is it worth it to take that kind of risk to max that out?
I think it's always worth it. I think anytime that you're able to get a match, that's free money left on the table. So even if it's not what someone with a typical 9 to 5 is, say it's like 2-3%, like you said, I think it's free money. Why leave it on the table? So I think it's best to still get the max and then do your side things on the side. Maybe open up your own different account to make sure that you're also investing extra on top of what you're getting on your 401k.
Okay. All right. Now, I said in one of the posts that I did that one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is that particularly Black folk didn't grow up, and people of color didn't grow up with generational wealth. Exactly. Right. So we don't talk about money. And I think we should talk about money, but we don't talk about money. And I want to start talking about money. And I'm going to try and twist your arm a bit to do something once a month called Talk About Money. But one of the places I want to start is the basics, right? The basics is the savings account, right? And what I say is that when I grew up, my parents said, get a checking account and get a savings account. And that was kind of basically all they said. But today, what we know is that they're high yield savings accounts. And many of them are online or associated with a credit card. Like American Express has a high yield savings account. Robinhood has a high yield savings account. Schwab has a high yield savings account. Navy Federal has a high yield savings account. Apple Credit Union has a high yield savings account. And I know PNC has a one at 6%, but that's only in California, is what I've seen. Can you talk to the people about what the difference is in a regular savings account and a high yield savings account?
Yes. So a high yield savings account is basically an offline savings account, but it gives you a higher return, like a higher percent return. So basically, if you have a regular savings account, say with Wells Fargo or Bank of America, you're probably getting 1% or less on that money that's sitting inside of that account. But say that you were to open a high yield savings account, you might get 5 to 6% return on that money that you store there. The difference is because they aren't like a high yield savings account isn't like a bank that you can go withdraw that money out. They're able to give you a higher return. Now, when you put your money inside of a bank, it is loaned to millions and millions of people that come inside the bank. So you're basically giving your money to the bank and they're loaning it out to other people, which is the same thing that a high yield savings account would do, but you're going to get a payment for it. So Wells Fargo and Bank of America might be giving you 1% to loan out your money to someone else at 7 or 8% or maybe 10% for a car loan or a house loan. And so you want to basically maximize your money as much as you can. So I always advise to utilize high yield savings accounts as your savings, and then like your short-term savings, and then long-term savings you want to invest.
Okay, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there in a minute. Yeah. But one of the things that some people are afraid of is that, I think there might be an age gap, right? Mm-hmm. So folks that are, in my experience, and put it this way, folks 35 and up are like, you want me to transfer my money to some bank online and ipsy bipsy kipsy bipsy that I've never heard of before, or that I can't go into. And I think that, the groups like Ally and others, I think kind of ran into that on the front end of their servicing for financial servicing. But can you talk about the fact that as long as the bank or the credit union is federally insured, your money is safe?
Exactly. So high yield savings account operates the same as a regular bank account, right? So basically it's insured up to $250,000. So say something happens and you transfer your money to the high yield savings account and someone maybe hacks the account, or like the bank has some kind of glitch and they hack the bank account, you get that money back. So it's the same exact insurance that you would get for a regular savings account is what you would get with the high yield savings account. Now, the major difference that I want everybody to remember is that when interest rates get cut, so does the interest rate on your high yield savings account. So it could say that you're getting a 5% return in December. And then when we get to January, it could go down to 4 or 3%, just depending on government rate cuts. So as we cut rates, that interest rate is going to go down, but it's still better than having your money stored inside of a regular savings account, because at the end of the day, you still are getting a higher return. And then that money is just sitting there, not doing anything. So at all times, you want to make sure that your money is working for you 24/7, right? Regardless of, like, I hate to say it, but I always tell people, like, when you think about it, your money is sitting in the savings account, right? It's not moving. It's not doing anything. So the bank is going to give you what, 1 penny on $10,000 maybe. So yeah, it's not worth it at the end of the day. So you just want to make sure that any money you have is consistently making money every day. If it's not going to be invested and you're going to use a high yield savings account, then it's best to utilize a high yield and not a regular one.
Right. And so one of the things that I also just want to kind of keep saying and reiterate over and over and over and over again is that I do think that online banking and online financial exchanges are the way that, it's where we are. And I think we're going to go there even further. But I think that the thing that is critically important is, that gold shield with the black writing usually that says FDIC. And that, right. And that's the federal distinction for it being federally insured, because I know that, for example, there was a couple of years ago, and I think it happened in California is where I want to say it happened. And what the folks had done is that they were moving massive amounts of currency around, particularly a lot of startups, and they had it in an institution that wasn't federally insured, and it collapsed. And they were like, well, wait a minute, we get our money back up to the 250,000. And they were like, no, because no. And they were like, what do you mean no? And they were like, it's not federally insured. That's why. So I always tell people, no matter how high flying that you are, know what risk that you're taking. And if you're going to put your money someplace, particularly a savings account, that you might want to make sure that it's federally insured. Here's the other thing that I really want to kind of talk about. Like I said, we're going to start here with putting our toe into what we do with our finances. So can you tell me, before we go to this next level of talking about fun, other than savings accounts, what else could people do at this kind of really base level, right? You're looking at your employer, you're looking at what your employer offers and those kind of savings. Are there other tools out there that people should be thinking about?
Yeah, I would say what I always tell people when they join my All Hustle University team, I always say, hey, plan out a budget for the year, right? Going into 2025. And then I also want people to make sure that they know their net worth. So a lot of people don't know exactly where they stand. So I think getting your net worth, looking at how much you're actually worth on paper, will actually help you sit down and create that budget that you're looking for. Because you always want to make sure that you're investing 20% of your paycheck if you can. So I always advise people, when you get paid, pay yourself.
Pay yourself first.
Exactly. Pay yourself first. I don't care if it's $5. I don't care if it's $10. It's something. You just want to make sure that you are paying yourself. So I would say utilizing those kind of tools. I would say creating a budget to get ready for next year, knowing your net worth, as well as seeing what other accounts that you can open up that you don't have. For instance, I know we haven't got there yet, but for instance, a Roth IRA account. So when you wanted to see what you don't have that you can maximize going into 2025. So if you already have a 401k and you're like, I still want to invest a little bit heavier and I'm already at the max, then you can say, hey, I'll check out a Roth IRA account.
Okay. So I want to take a step back to this budget thing, because that was one of the first things that Lori sat me down and did, right? Is that and at that time it was, what's my rent? What's my food? What's my cigarette budget? I smoked then, I don't now, and it was my coffee budget. What is all these things? And what I had left over, it was like $25. And I think that was like at that point in my life with that I was making $23,000. But I also had another unique experience in my life. And I met Tony Robbins, the self-help guy. And I went to, believe it, I went to his house in Namale in Fiji. And he did this thing called business mastery. And you laughing at me because you're like, don't talk about your sweater anymore. I know, it's okay. But it's like, and one of the things that he did and talked about in this class, and it really reshaped my thinking about money, right? Is that one of the questions he asked us was, what's the number we would need to just be okay? And I said, I need $10 million. I need $10 million and I'll be all right. And he looked at me and said, you don't need $10 million. And I was like, yeah, I do. I need $10 million. He said, you might want 10 million, but you don't need 10 million. And he had us sit down and write out kind of what we needed to live, what we would need to live the lifestyle. I like to travel. I like to go at least 4 or 5 times to 6 times a year. I like to go outside the country. I like to buy fancy sweaters and watches like you do. And so what were the things that I needed to do? And it actually turned out I needed significantly less money to live on, right? Because I thought I was going to be flying private planes and all this other stuff. And he told me everything from like, here's how you fly a private plane, and you don't own the plane. You don't need to own the plane. You need to do this, 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 and this.
Exactly.
And so one of the things that I really want to really emphasize or highly emphasize is this idea of a budget, because I think so many people just move away from it. They say, well, I spend what I get what I spend. And so can you give them maybe where can they find some tools to help them budget?
Yeah, there's a wide range. So like I would say utilize the tools that we have. So we have Chat GPT, right? That's the new thing. So tailor it to your life. Say like, hey, Chat GPT, can you create me a budget? This is a breakdown of my expenses. It should be able to kind of pull right up a budget for you. You can Google a budget. They have spreadsheets and different things like that. It's super easy to find. You just got to put in the work. And I will say research for sure. Like same how we're talking about the high yield savings accounts. You want to make sure you're researching that to see what's insured and what isn't. Ask your friends if they have one. Ask them for recommendations, things like that. So just to make sure that you're utilizing your money in a safe way and that you feel comfortable doing that. So I would say just utilizing, I think Chat GPT to me is honestly the easiest route because it's tailored to your life and you can tell it what you want it to say and it'll bring it right up online.
Right. And I think that, I think that the good news about Chat GPT, you can be as micro as you want to or as macro as you want to. You can tell them I spend $20. I know I spend $20 a day on coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what and I want to, and you can tell it even, I want to reduce my budget, my coffee budget. How do I do it? And it'll tell you, cut down, 4 cups of coffee a week instead of 7, dum dum. I mean, it'll tell you stuff like that. I think that those are pretty much the tools. So far, we've gotten one question. And so and it says, I'm late to the game and I'm just starting a 403B. What do I do?
So they're late to the game and they're just starting a
403. So I think that they're at a nonprofit. They're not at a for-profit. So they're at a 403B, which is a lot like a 401.
Yeah, see, I don't know. You know anything about B? See, I only know things about 401ks and IRAs. How about that? You might be the expert on that, my entrepreneur.
Right. But I think, here's what I would say is that I would say there's 2 things. One is that if you've been working in nonprofits for most of your adult life, most of us who worked in nonprofits didn't always have 401s or 403Bs or any of that. So the bigger question is there money that you can go back and get from your employer? For example, if your employer never paid you in your retirement at all, I mean, I've been at my employer for 250 years, so I have a different relationship. So what happened for me is that I honestly went back to my board of directors and I said, hey, I've worked here for 200 years. And since I was working here, we didn't have money at this period of time. We didn't have a big budget at this period of time. What I would like to do is renegotiate what it is that you're investing in my 401 every year, or in this case, a 403. And I think you can go back to your board and you can ask that board to make a lump sum payment into your account. So 25,000 and say, or you can say, hey, I've been here for 5 years and you haven't paid anything in. Can I get 5,000 a year for all of those back years that I have been here? And if I raise more money, I get more money. I think that there are ways in which you can have the conversation, especially about your retirement, especially if you've been working at an organization for over 3 years. And I strongly encourage everyone to go back that's in a nonprofit or in the nonprofit sector. If you're in the C-suite, the executive director, deputy executive director, that sort of thing, to go back to that board and renegotiate a lump sum payment into your investment accounts. So I know we're at 7:30 and I said I wanted to kind of move us along to the next level, to where I think I am, which is the mid-range. And the mid-range is that I have investments in real estate. I have investments in the stock market. I have investments in ETFs. I've got a Roth IRA. I've got various types of stock. And so we're probably going to spend the bulk of our time right here. So the first question is, you and I both really like Robinhood a lot. Can we stop for a minute and talk about why Robinhood is a good thing? Because I have Robinhood, I have Schwab, and I have one other. Actually, I have a big account also with Wells Fargo, but I don't recommend it. And the reason I don't recommend it is because I think it's cumbersome, and I like to be able to mess with my money. I like to be able to control my own destiny. So let's talk a bit about kind of this, what we're calling the mid range.
Yeah. So Robinhood was actually the first investment account that I've ever had. So it's super user friendly, super beginner friendly. I like the interface of it. I feel like it's very cut and dry. And then I also like how they have added the breakdown of what things actually are. So if you don't know what something is, it has an abbreviated detail about what it is there, what type of account you're going to get. So it has changed a lot since 2018. Because when I first got the account, it was kind of like you had to figure it out on your own. Now they kind of have baby hand steps that can like break down for beginners, like, hey, this is what this means, hey, this is this type of stock, and then it has it broken down into sectors. So every stock might be in a different sector. Even if you want just the top 100 stocks, it breaks it down for you. So I think it's very user friendly, easy interface, easy to understand. And then I also like how they will front you the money when you're investing, right? So most accounts you have to wait for the money to settle. But with Robinhood,
so back up. You see, you're spitting game, as they say, and people may not know what you're saying. So for most investment accounts, they got to get your money. Your money got to clear your account and clear into their account, and then they go, okay, now you can buy whatever it is that you want to buy.
Exactly.
But Robinhood is, go ahead.
It allows you to go ahead and kind of and buy whatever you want, and then when the money settles, they'll settle the money out with you. So accounts like Fidelity, I feel like I have Fidelity, and they make me wait maybe like 24 hours, maybe 48 hours before I can actually invest the money that I have put into the account. So I think Robinhood is kind of like the easiest one to even to trade options on and things like that, to invest on. I just like the interface altogether. So I think it's a good option. So if you're new to investing, I highly recommend just downloading Robinhood and utilizing that platform.
Right. And so what we have a question is, should I move my money / buy, sell daily? Well, I mean, and so what I want to be, I want to be careful about how we answer that question. And the reason is because I got a phone call about whether or not you are going to trigger, because the person that asked the question, you said daily. And if that's a day trading daily, Robinhood will trigger you. You need a maximum of 25K in your Robinhood account to do day trading.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of turning that around in a matter of minutes or a matter of hours, and they do monitor that. But I think that if for me, I would move it if there wasn't going to be a penalty from where you're moving it from. But I'm now going to let you answer.
So they're asking if they should transfer their money from one brokerage to another, or they're asking about day trading. I guess I've misunderstood.
Well, let's ask them. Is it sensational? Oh, I don't know. Sensational. Mm-hmm. I mean, I may be mispronouncing their screen name. It says Robinhood dash, should I move my money / buy, sell daily? I mean, I think maybe they're saying they buy and sell daily. Yeah, and I would say, yeah, because of the fees associated, right? Depending on where you are, you might be paying a bunch of fees that are unnecessary that you don't necessarily pay at Robinhood.
Yeah, well, so Robinhood fees are actually hidden, but you pay fees, they just kind of hide them from you. So right now Robinhood is actually running a special. I think if you're a gold member, they match your IRA account, or they'll match kind of some money that's being transferred into that account. I would say if you aren't satisfied with the platform that you're using now, maybe see about transferring, but I highly recommend researching first. So I don't want you to transfer all your things over and then you get to the platform and you're like, I don't like this platform. So I would say download Robinhood, look at it, use it, see how you feel about it, and then decide whether to transfer your money over to utilize only Robinhood. Some brokerage accounts actually will pay for you to do a transfer, and they might be one of those accounts. So I would say just do a little bit more research, download, see how you like it before transferring all of your valuables over.
They say, I mean, in terms of monitoring stock. So I think that for monitoring stock or tracking stock, I think that they're great. I think it's great for that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that we have a couple of links that are in a bunch of the posts that we've done. One for a credit card from Robinhood, and one for a coupon if you sign up for Robinhood. I think in the last post that I did. And at the end of this, I will do a post with a link to KC's Academy, as well as the two Robinhood links as well. So we'll make sure that we repost both of those. We're going to get to, hey, don't rush us. We're going to get to the blockchain. We're going to get to blockchain. We're on our road to blockchain.
I know she's slowing me down as I try to.
But I mean, but the thing is that that's a part of what I wanted to do here, is that people don't know how to ask the question, right? Or don't know who to ask the question to. So, all right. So here we go. So now we got stock, but I'm broke as a bag of glass, and I'm broke. I'm poor. I'm poor. Po. How, and the last time I checked, Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, was trading at about 190. I don't know what it closed at today, but it was trading at about 190. How do I just buy? I don't have $190 to get up people for no share of stock. How do I buy a fraction of a stock? Can I buy fractional shares on Robinhood, or do I have to go to Schwab and open up a slice account?
So the great thing about investing is that you can invest with as little as
on what platform though?
On all platforms.
Okay.
So all platforms, you can invest as little as $1 with something called fractional shares. So fractional shares are basically where you get half of the share or a fourth of the share. You don't have to buy the whole share in order to be an investor.
So so fractional shares. I thought that some like Fidelity does Fidelity offer fractional shares now?
Yeah, all brokerage accounts offer fractional shares. So say you want to put in $50. You just type in $50, it'll give you whatever the equivalent is for that.
Right. And so now, but sometimes my understanding is like for Schwab, for example, you have to do that through their slice account. You can't do that through their regular brokerage account.
Now that I'm not sure. See, I only utilize Fidelity and Robinhood. So I know those two platforms. That's what you used to. Yeah, I don't like Schwab. I'm not trying to diss Schwab, but Schwab is kind of like hard to utilize.
It's clunky. It's really, really clunky. I mean, Schwab is clunky, and I always say it's for old people, because it's such a traditional thing. Right. It's such a traditional thing. It's not a thing where you can go in with ease of use. And that's why I like Robinhood. Robinhood is ease of use. I think that new investors can see more, understand more, learn more. It's more of a teachable thing. So again, so everybody who wants to get into the market can start to buy this. Say it again, because remember I told people to get a pen and a paper, but I doubt that they did. Fractional shares. And so if they go on the Robinhood and they type into the little what is that, looking glass or whatever that thing is, just type in fractional shares and you'll be able to do that. Does Robinhood have a minimum investment that you have to put in?
No, I think it says little. It's still as little as $1.
And
yeah,
right. And I think that you can actually use again the coupon, and there were for a while offering you $5 if you signed up right now or something like that. So again, use the links that we put out, and those links can get you in. And again, I really want to say, I think it's either $5 or $10 that it lets you start with, and you can connect it to any account that you want to connect it to make deposits. Like you can connect it to your checking, your savings, and you can automatically put money into the Robinhood account. Now,
yeah, the link, I think the link that you posted, it gives you $5 in a certain stock that you can pick from. So whenever you download it, Tony will get a stock, and then you'll get a stock, and you can pick between Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, whatever you want. But it gives you $5 to start you off. And then, like she said, you can connect your bank account, your savings account to be able to fund that account and get started investing.
Right. And, and so the idea really for us tonight is to get you ready, right? So what we've covered is, so the other thing here's one thing I really want to say before we get too far down, because we're getting ready to talk about blockchain, Bitcoin, because if these people don't stop texting me about Bitcoin and blockchain, I'm going to go bananas. So
that's a hard thing to explain too. It's confusing
right.
for me.
So here's the thing, is that the other thing I always say to people is that don't forget you may have left some money on the table. And what do I mean by that? Is that if you've been in the workforce and people have been you have 401k, you had these thrift accounts, you had all of these accounts, but you didn't change 2-3 jobs, call your job back, email your old job back and say, hey, HR department, hey, finance department, I worked there a year ago, or I worked there 5 years ago. And, I thought I had an IRA account, or I thought I had this account, or you were taking money out of my check and I want to see. Now, many of you won't end up with anything, but some of you might find that you left a Roth IRA account, you left some sort of 401 account there. You might find out. Go back and ask before it's forgotten about, is what I like to say. So that's my little tidbit for all of the people out there. And the reason I bring this up is because we at my day job were doing an audit, and we were moving from ADP as our manager of our retirement account to John Hancock. And as we were transferring over, I was like, who are these people? These people ain't worked here in 10 years. And it turns out that they had left money. Now, one guy only had 19 cents in his account. We still had to contact him, but I mean, I don't think he was like too excited about the 19-cent memo. But then there was somebody else who had over $5,000 in that account. And they didn't call me every single day about that money. Like, how soon is it coming? So you might be one of those people that has left some money over in that account. Now let's get, somebody's asked if I'm still in DC. Yes, I'm still in DC. All right. So listen, let's get to it. The coin. Now, some people think that Bitcoin is like Super Mario Brothers. Like if they hit their head on a brick, a whole bunch of coins are going to fall out and it's going to be like Bitcoin. And that's what it is. And I'm like, that's not what Bitcoin is. So let's talk about, first of all, let's start high level. What is cryptocurrency?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Okay, so cryptocurrency is basically a digital asset that either operates on a centralized or decentralized network.
What the hell did you just say?
It's a digital currency that operates on a centralized or decentralized network. So for most people, that is like, what does that mean? So it's basically, so a lot of crypto is used, it's a currency, right? So a lot of transactions can be done in seconds compared to your bank account. So say I was to send Toni $50. It might take a while for that $50 to get to her account using something like Zelle or anything like that, right? So if you use something like a blockchain, if I sent her $50 in Bitcoin, she would get it in 2 seconds. So you send from peer to peer.
Now see, this is why people don't like young people. This is why people don't like people under 35. This is it right here. This is why people just do like this when you start talking about Bitcoin. They go, never mind. So they just go, never mind, forget about it. I'm not doing it. So let's slow down. Okay. So here's the thing: digital currency. What does that even mean? Because money is paper money, is what. So let's draw the picture for the people, right? So digital currency is different than paper currency or coins or cash. It is the most ethereal, right? It is the most theoretical thing, right? It is not a thing. It is like ones and zeros when you're coding data, right? So it's like, I think people need to really get it, that what it is that there's a limited number of each one of them, number one, right? Okay.
Yep.
And the only reason I understand this is that this girl I was trying to go out with, who it didn't work. Right, because I was trying to be smart with her, right? I was like, "Oh yeah, I understand crypto," and she's like, "No, you don't." And she sent me a whole paper, and that's the only reason I now understand it, right? Is that so? There's a limited number of each one, and so let's talk to the people. You got don't sit over there looking all shy now. You got a whole university. I'm just over here sitting in my basement, like But so.
You told me high level, so I gave you the high level definition. You ain't give me time.
Well, that's what we're gonna do. You're gonna break it down, right? So number one, I would say everybody. A lot of people think all cryptocurrency is Bitcoin, and we need to dispel that myth first and foremost. There are multiple types of cryptocurrency. Now you go. Now break it down with your sweater.
So to break it down, I look at Bitcoin as digital.
Okay.
That's going to be your top dog. That's going to be your limited, right? So there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin in the whole entire world. There's not going to be any more made. There's not going to be any more created. So that's why you see a lot of people tell you, hey, you need to get at least one Bitcoin, because supply demand, right? If you don't have a lot of Bitcoin, then you're holding on to something that a lot of people can't get, which is going to go in.
But wait a minute. But Bitcoin is now at like $100,000 a coin, right?
Exactly. So the people who got in early benefit, but Bitcoin has a long way to go, right? So we're at 100,000 right now, but this is a possibility that we can go to $1 million. And then I'll tell you why there's a possibility. So right now there's talks with the new Trump administration that they're going to be doing maybe a Bitcoin Federal Reserve, right? So if this happens, that means that United States will take their money, buy up Bitcoin, which means your Bitcoin is now valuable, right? Because the United States is now investing.
Well, wait a minute. Hold it. Hold it. I told you I want them messing with my Social Security. I'm trying to get my check.
This is speculation. This might not even happen, but this is a possibility.
All right, so now we gotta slow this down, right? You gotta talk to people like that too, mainly me, right? So so we got Bitcoin, and there's a limited number of them, right? There, what 20 million, right? I think it's like 20, and I think it's like 20 million. Yeah, I think it's 20 million actual Bitcoin, right? And so the idea, 21 million. Okay. So 21 million coins that are now valued at it's been going up and down. It's been pinging all over the place, right, of late. So between like 93,000 and 100,000 per coin. Now, when I buy Bitcoin, I'm only buying a fraction of a coin, right?
Yes, unless you got the whole 90 or 100,000.
I do not.
I will say, at least I always tell people in All Hustle University to try to get at least 0.1 Bitcoin. So right now, 0.1 Bitcoin can change your life forever in the next 10 years. That's my personal opinion. I stand by it.
So what's 0.10 of 100,000? I don't.
That's about 10, maybe a $10,000 to $11,000 investment.
So
to get a 0.1, but you can build up to this position, right? You don't have to put all of this in at once. So what I tell people in my stock chat is to set a monthly or weekly goal. Like whether it's I'm going to invest $200 a month into Bitcoin, I'm going to invest maybe $50 a month into Bitcoin. As long as you are utilizing Bitcoin as your savings, you can never fail. So right now, Bitcoin has outperformed any other investment in the world. Real estate is outperforming the stock market. The S&P 500 is outperformed a lot of different entities where you can invest your money. So it's like a no-brainer, but you just have to kind of like research and know what Bitcoin is. So I encourage everybody today or tomorrow over the weekend just to kind of look up what Bitcoin is, research, YouTube, just listen to other people talk about it to really get to know what it is, so that you can see why it's important that you at least get a piece of the pie before it goes to $1 million.
Right. Oh, so you believe so I mean, I'm hearing 250, and you think so right now, like I said earlier, that Bitcoin
250 this cycle. So it'll be, so crypto goes in cycles, right? So every 4 years or every cycle, we have a target. So 250 is the target for 2025, but 10 years from now, it's definitely going to be $1 million asset.
You really believe that? With every
I believe that. You can what they call it, type this up.
You believe? Okay, so all right. So
I believe Bitcoin will be $1 million asset. And this is not financial.
No, we need to one about this. Let me rephrase it again. Let me say it again. If I didn't say it, we are not certified financial planners. We've just done okay. And we're just having a conversation with you tonight. And we're explaining what we've done. And so you can do whatever you want to do, but don't call me. Don't come looking at me. Don't say I said. Don't say KC said. And therefore you did. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of like know-how of what we did. So what I've done is I've done Bitcoin in two different ways, right? So I've established a Coinbase account, and I've established another through another purchasing agreement, because some stock or some asset houses, Schwab and a couple of others, don't really want you buying Bitcoin. What they want you doing is buying regular NASDAQ, S&P type stock. They don't want you to buy Bitcoin through their platform because it's getting back to our FDIC. It's not regulated in the same way.
So they've actually upgraded a little bit this year. So this year they created a Bitcoin ETF. So you can buy your Bitcoin ETF on any platform. So they have it on Robinhood, they have it on Fidelity. Basically, this gives you some type of protection on Bitcoin because Bitcoin is very volatile. So volatile meaning that it goes up, but it comes down just as hard. So it's a volatile asset, right? So different brokerage accounts have created, the government has created an ETF to where you're
so see why you always got to go somewhere where ain't nobody take you, right? Why you gotta go somewhere ain't nobody take you yet, right? So you want to see? I really believe in ETFs, but some people don't believe in ETFs. So what is an ETF? Let's talk about it.
An ETF to me is basically like a combination of an investment. So stock ETFs, say you have the S&P 500, like it shadows the S&P 500, right? So it'll have like maybe the top 20 stocks in it or the top 10 of their picks or QQQ. Like they all have different entities. So basically to me, it helps you diversify. So if you're not a person who's really good at picking stocks, like say you don't want to buy Tesla individually, you don't want to buy Apple individually, you can just buy S&P 500 where you get both Tesla and Apple into one stock. So it allows you to diversify among a bunch of stocks so that if the market is up on one and down on the other, it gives you an equal balance.
And my understanding is, and like I said, I do have QQQ. I've got it's HODL, which has a lot of Bitcoin in it, or has a lot of crypto partners in it. Let me put it that way. And that was done actually very well. And I think that one of the things that ETFs, and I think what exchange traded funds is what it stands for, or something like that. And
yep. Yeah.
And so, and again, what you're saying is, okay, so for the people that are slow in the class like me, so what we want to do is make sure that you understand that an ETF is like what I say is a smash up of, usually a smash up of a sector. So either that you could find it in the electronic sector, you could find it in the healthcare sector, you can find it in the health and wellness sector, but you can find that they've been collapsed into one thing. So, and again, I think that ETFs give you less risk and a higher return, frankly. But and so I also think that people who are market shy should look at ETFs. But I also think of ETFs as long haul investments. I'm not going in and out of there every week or every month, moving that around. It's like I buy it and I leave it alone. Whereas an individual share, you might sell, go up, go down. But with the ETF, I think you really I look at those as longer term investments, especially something like a QQQ. Which I'm real heavy on, and I bought in earlier, and it's just done really well. It's been steady. I call it steady Freddy.
Yeah. So they actually have created one of those for Bitcoin to limit your risk, right? So that it's not as volatile. So a lot of people who don't want to actually buy Bitcoin on something like Coinbase, they'll just buy Bitcoin in their brokerage account at a cheaper price at that. So I think right now it's trading at about
What's it? What are the letters? What's the name of it? Do you know the name of it off the top of your head?
BTI. Hold on, let me try to look it up. Every platform has a different. So I think Fidelity has their own. I have it in my watch list. Let me pull it up.
And so, I mean, and I think hopefully we've answered the question about the blockchain. I mean, and so, do you think that was a fair explanation?
IBIT.
Huh?
That's what it's called. IBIT.
I is in igloo, B is in boy, I is in igloo, T is in Tom.
Yep, it's called the iShare Bitcoin Trust ETF.
Now, and so, are you really think that Bitcoin's gonna go to $1 million?
I really do.
Well, what about like Ethereum or something like that? You've got those up.
There's they don't compare to Bitcoin. Now I do invest in Ethereum. I do invest in Solana. I do invest in XRP. I do invest in Cardano, which is ADA. I think all of those are amazing platforms, but Bitcoin is always going to be the leader in the crypto field, right? So they will make you profit. Don't get me wrong, but Bitcoin is kind of like the master, right? So what I do is I invest in the things like Ethereum and the things like Solana, and then I make a profit and then I flip that into Bitcoin. I just convert the profit that I make into Bitcoin because at the end of the day, my goal is to own Bitcoin.
Really?
Yes.
Really? And why? Yes. And why is that?
Because it's like digital gold. It's literally digital gold, right? So if the U.S. government is going to invest into Bitcoin and utilize Bitcoin for our Federal Reserve, the price is going to go up, right? So you're going to maximize your investment. And then you also have an asset that can't be reproduced, no one can kind of take it at that point. So you have something that's limited. So it's going to grow in value. So I think with a lot of research, when people actually like sit down and YouTube and research what Bitcoin actually does and how it grows, they'll look at money differently. Because right now, money is something that can be printed out of thin air, right? You can't print more Bitcoins, but you can print more dollars.
Right. So the value of the dollar decreases while the value of the Bitcoin increases. Right.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. So I hope whoever asked the blockchain question, I hope that answered your question. I don't know if it did or didn't, but if you put it in the chat, if it didn't, and we'll continue to mine it. See what I did there? See what I did there about the Bitcoin mining? So, because that's what I want to talk about now. How do I get
a blockchain? And just to clear it up, a blockchain is basically like a ledger that records transactions on across a network. So basically, it's just recording the transactions when people are sending and receiving money back and forth through crypto.
Right. But now how do I mine my Bitcoin? When I say, well, I decided that I'm going to take all my Bitcoin and go buy I'm going to go buy my Rolex Presidential. I'm done with this Bitcoin idea, and I want to buy myself a Rolex and a puppy. How do I get my money out of that thing? How do I mine it?
So mining is different. So mining is like you're using a computerized like hardware to mine Bitcoin. So that's different than selling Bitcoin. So
okay.
you're trading. So if you want to get your money back, that's considered selling Bitcoin. So to sell, you just go on the web, like, whatever app that you're using, whether it's Coinbase, crypto.com, and you just hit the sell button and it transfers it back to
it'll convert it back right away. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, so it'll convert it back right away the same way as stocks. You just want to sell the Bitcoin, but I always advise never sell your Bitcoin.
Okay. And so now tell me about mining Bitcoin. What does that mean?
So that is like, it's so complex that I still have to research it myself. It's like a computerized system where you're using a lot of energy to mine the Bitcoin. I still am learning about it myself, so I can't really answer the question in full complex because I haven't learned that sector of Bitcoin about mining. But I do have friends who try to mine Bitcoin, but it takes a lot of energy.
What is that?
Because you have to have specialized computer.
Okay, in order to do it, and that's like looking for just little pieces of Bitcoin that is around, and you're pulling it into your wallet, basically, right?
Yep, exactly. So it takes a lot of energy, a lot of different computer technology systems to be able to do.
Well, and I'm glad we kind of got here about energy and that sort of thing, because one of the things I people also often ask, what and how should I invest in? And so, my silly theory is that if you drink it, eat it, wear it, buy it, go to it, do it, you should. I.e., as we were talking earlier, if you go to Starbucks every day, you'd be a fool not to own Starbucks. If you wear 500, if you got 500 pairs of Nikes in your closet, you'd be a fool not to own Nike. Because it's not just that you are the person that is kind of wearing that thing, but look around. I mean, because it's like, and I always use this example. It's like those Hoka shoes, Hoka. I think that is a hideous shoe. I don't own a pair. I think that they're ugly. But you know what I noticed? I noticed everyone was wearing them. And so I went out and I didn't make a big investment. I think I bought like 10 or 15 shares and it's gone. Bloop, 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 bloop. Why? Because everybody's wearing them. So I think that the idea also of being able to, if you have a complaint about something, to say, I'm a shareholder in your company. Whether it's one share, a quarter of a share, or 100 shares, I'm a shareholder in your company. You get the same email that the 100,000 shareholders get that says you get to come to the shareholders meeting and vent your complaint. So what is your idea or what is your recommendation on how people decide what they invest in? What do you talk to people about at the Incredible Hulk University? What's this?
All
Hustle University. There you go.
All hustle, no handouts.
Hustle hard. There you go.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're getting to it. So, what I tell people is to pick 2 tech companies and 2 index funds or ETFs, basically. So this gives you diversification, plus it gives you insight on the sectors. I think that it's important to not look at every little stock that you can see because there's thousands of stocks, right? So I always tell people, hey, pick 4 to 5 stocks, focus on those stocks, make sure 2 of them are tech companies, 2 of them are ETFs. I think that this gives a healthy balance for new people starting off in investing. I think it's a safe play for most people in investing because right now tech is what it is, right? AI is what it is. So you just have to kind of follow the markets and study the markets to see what's booming right now. And I always say 2 tech, 2 index or /ETFs. That's what an index is. So though that's my strategy when starting out, and then picking no more than 4 to 5 stocks.
So no more than 4 or 5 individual stocks to focus on.
4 to 5 stocks between your ETF in general. 4 to 5 stocks in general.
Throughout the year or throughout my individual purchase that day?
No, throughout the year.
I think I had too much ADHD to kind of. And the reason I say that is because it's like I mean I believe that it, like if I look at tech, for example, I kind of say that tech is the backbone to everything, right? So
exactly.
To me,
so you would pick 2 tech companies, right? So say you pick Tesla, say you want to pick Nvidia. So you would build positions in those 2, but then you also still have your ETF, which is your safety net, right? So that's going to be the one that has all the companies incorporated. So you might have a Kava in there, you might have a Exxon gas station in there, depending on your ETF that you pick. So I think that it gives an easy balance there because you still have exposure to other stock companies without buying them individually. So that's why I say just focus on 4 to 5. So you can pick 2 tech. That's 4 right there, right? 2 tech and 2 ETFs. And then you can add in an extra if you're curious about a different company. But I think that that's like a solid foundation for growth and investment.
Well, I mean, okay, so you hit on two of the ones I love and 2 of the ones I hate. They're both, and they're the same one, Nvidia as well as Tesla. Tesla has bounced all over the place as of late.
Yes.
I say definitely buy Tesla on the down. I say buy it on the down and leave it alone. Is what I say, because I think it'll always kind of come back up. Especially as long as we have kind of where Elon Musk is right now with this relationship that it has with the White House seemingly right now. And what I worry is that if that relationship sullies, does that stock tank at some point?
Exactly. Yeah. So I've been a Tesla investor since 2020, right? So I invested $5,000 into Tesla and it is now worth $18,000 just from holding it from 2020 into 2024. So I think that it is a lucrative investment for sure. And so my price target for 2025 is definitely going to be 700. I think that we can see $700 a share.
Get out of here.
You think my parents think they should buy out of you?
I mean, I think that they're big, right? I think that you are I mean, I don't see Tesla going back up to 700.
All right, we were at 500. We were at 500 2 days ago. We were close,
but then it went.
Yeah, but the market's going to fluctuate, right? So we're at so for everybody that doesn't know, the end of December is always going to be a sell-off month, right? So some people are selling off positions. They're selling off position for taxes and other purposes, personal purposes, right? So there's always going to be a dip on the last, I would say, 2 weeks of the market. But when we get back next year, I think that we're going to be sitting pretty, and I can see 700 by the end of 2025.
And so, and let me ask you, and I'm gonna have to step off for 1 second because my dog, for some reason, all of a sudden, my dog that never wants to go outside now wants to go outside. But I want you to talk a bit about. I need just 1 minute, and you ramble on a bit about. About buying the dip, and I'll be right back. You talk about buying the dip, then I'll be right back.
Gotcha.
Talk.
I am waiting for you to leave. She's giving me a super hard time, right? So something that I talk to my group members about all the time is making sure that you buy the dip. So when investing, this is going to sound super crazy, but you want to buy during red days, right? You do not want to buy when the market is flying high and it's green. So people in our community, we utilize red days as an opportunity to buy into stock. And now this is because you want to get the cheapest price that you can get. So when you see red, do not fear. That is in an investor's mind, that's time to buy. so that when it does go up, you're in profit. So you don't want to buy something that's green. I always advise everybody to buy when it's red and then be patient, because there's always going to be a pullback. There's always going to be opportunity.
And so, okay, so one of the things that I did buy was that I bought NVIDIA, right? And
Yeah.
when I bought NVIDIA because I bought NVIDIA, and I bought what I thought was when it was relatively high. And it was at, I want to say it was at 97 a share.
$97? Oh, that was cheap.
Well, I mean, I thought it was high at the time, right? And it wasn't a big investment. And it was something like you said with Tesla, it was like $5,000 or something like that. But what I kept hearing was that it was going to split, and it did. So that is split at, I think, I want to say at 120 is where it split. It's somewhere around there. And it's relatively back up there again. So what do you say about listening to business news or listening to stock news, or, like, what's his name? Jim, what's his name on CNBC or those guys? Yeah.
I would say conduct your own research. Always, always, always conduct your own research, right? So you just want to become an expert, and you want to be confident in whatever you're investing your hard-earned money into, because nobody else is, right? So I will say research as much as you can. Look at 5 years, how the company has performed. Look at earning reports. Look at the stock chart. Just have some conviction in what you're putting your money into, because someone could have a different opinion than you. It's like, to Toni, I sound crazy that I think Bitcoin is going to hit $1 million, right? But it's because I researched and I've actually YouTubed and read books on what this currency is, and how we're still early to this process. So it's just all about like building conviction and studying and researching what you have. So of course, take advice from people, but I will say, if you're listening to multiple platforms, I will only listen to maybe one person at a time, because everybody's going to have it to tell you.
Right. And again, I think that that's very true. I think that that's the other piece of this, is that people really and truly want to believe, I think, that they have the greatest idea. And that's what, and what I say to people all the time is that if I walked up to you and said, give me $1 million and I'm going to turn it into 10 for you, you should run the other way, because nobody can make those kind of guarantees for you. But I think so many people think that that somebody can, or that they can. And one of the other pieces of this is that, and I want to talk a bit about this, is that there are bad actors in every sector, right?
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And that's what, and this is what I want to talk a bit about, is that, so, whether it is in, the thing now that we are looking at is certainly cryptocurrency. There are heavy investments in cryptocurrency. I think we've even seen Eric Trump going around the world of late, selling a new crypto product and saying, invest in this around the world, which is supposed to compete with Bitcoin. Don't know that it's going to do that, but I'm watching him do that. And so what I'm getting to is that, people have asked me directly, is Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme?
No, it's not a Ponzi scheme. I think crypto in itself has a stigma, because it's a different way to view and look at money, right? So we're used to fiat, right? We're used to like money that you can actually physically trade and see. But the problem with this is money that is printed by the government out of thin air, which causes inflation, right? So we can't print more Bitcoin. We can't destroy the Bitcoin. There's nothing that we can, that we can do about the Bitcoin. So I think that just making sure that you research your cryptocurrency that you're going to be investing into, because there are currencies that are maybe meme coins or things like that, where people can do something called rug pull, basically take all your money in your liquid and then kind of go on about their business. So I think just making sure that you're paying attention to what crypto you're utilizing or investing into, and researching that crypto, and then making sure that you only invest into maybe the top 10. I wouldn't recommend anything outside of the top 10. Every sector has a top 10. Same thing with stocks. I wouldn't recommend for crypto investing anything outside of the top 10 unless you're an expert and that you can kind of.
Right. So like if somebody comes to you and says, I got some crypto, it's called Pluto Johnny. Don't
Not doing it.
right.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Right.
I'm not doing it.
Right. Because like the big ones are certainly Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. Right. Because it's like, I mean, I'm in like I'm in the like top 5. I'm like, I'm not going outside of the top 5. So let me ask you this. How did you start this thing? How did you start the Hustle Academy?
Yeah, so in 2019, I mentioned that I wanted to get a Rolex, right? But we were also going through COVID. So at that point, it made me realize how easily your job can be removed from you, just at the blink of an eye. So at the time, of course, everyone was going through a hard time. So I started getting more into investing in real estate and options and trading. So it made me realize that I had money, but it wasn't wealth building money. So like I was comfortable, but I wasn't building any wealth while I was comfortable.
What's the difference in money and wealth?
So wealth is actually like your assets over your liabilities. Money might just be something tangible that you have in your bank account. So for instance, you could have $20,000, right? But if you have $50,000 in credit card debt, you have no wealth, right? Because you have no money. Technically, you're in the negatives. So it's basically like your assets of what you own over your liabilities. So you always want your assets and your ownership to outweigh your liabilities. So liabilities are things like credit cards, car loans, even mortgages are considered some sort of liability if they're not producing any money for you in a way. So basically realized that I didn't have my money working for me. So I started researching things in the stock market and I got really into it. And then I realized how easily you can make $100 sitting at your desk by just pushing a button. So once you kind of get into that motion and you actually get to experience how easy it is and how quick you can make money, you get more into it and you start researching.
And so now, because that's one of the things that we haven't really talked about is real estate, right? So, in the olden times, it was that we would say that the best investment is real estate because they don't make any more of it. And it seems like Bitcoin has taken that same philosophy. There's a limited amount of it, so you should get it. But what about real estate? We're looking at a real estate market that is sort of volatile right now, particularly with high interest rates. And we don't know certain things like what if the president-elect eliminates the Department of Education. I think it might disrupt the DC housing market and a primary asset for a lot of people in the DC area may be disrupted all through the DMV, not just Washington DC, but through the entirety of the DMV. And I think that we may see some of that in Atlanta as well if there is a disruption in those markets. So I want to talk about the real estate market also in this way. And this was the kind of you and I, when we were talking about planning this, we said one of the things we would do is talk about the best and the worst financial advice that we ever got. And some of the best advice I ever got was from this guy who's a billionaire. And I asked him, I got it, but it was too late. And I asked him kind of, what was the biggest mistake that he'd ever made? And he laughed at me a bit and said, I'm a billionaire, right? And I was like, yeah, I get it. But you had to have tripped up somewhere along the way. And what he said was that he felt like the biggest mistake that he made was buying his first house. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I should have instead bought an investment property, a 2-unit or a 4-unit building, lived in one of the units until I had enough equity in that first unit to buy my home. Because so often we get emotionally invested in our first house that we don't see it as what it is, an asset. that you can leverage it to buy something else. You can leverage it to, he said, and then what happens is that most people end up in a situation with that first house where they don't want to take out the equity to make the other investments that they need to make. And that all of these real estate, all this property is nothing but an asset, and that's it, and that's all. But people get emotionally attached to their house. What do you,
I totally agree. And I feel like right now, with property tax going up, with property insurance going up, with HOAs going up, I feel like, of course, invest in real estate by all means, but this is why it's important to just invest in general. So basically, you can utilize your investments as a will to be able to get a house or be able to take out a loan against your money that you've been investing on. Because in reality, a lot of people are being pushed out of the housing market because of the pricing. Like it's just impossible for some people to own homes. I mean, luckily, me and you probably got in what I think I bought a house in 2018. So like that back then, it was like 4%, 3%, and then yeah, so it's like a lot of people are being priced out of the market. So I think that's why it's super important to build wealth through just investment.
Well, I mean, one of the things I tell people is that I bought my first house in 2002. And the truth is that I bought in the middle of the housing crisis. Right. And so, I mean, basically that was a time where you could basically write your name on a wet paper bag and tell them that your Uncle Rolf was the president of the company you work for, and said, okay. And they would say, all right. But the problem is that, many of us know, and subsequently the housing market collapsed because folks that got put into loans that they should have never been put into, or they got loans that they shouldn't have gotten, and they ended up in houses that were underwater. So they had to either walk away from them or not. But one of the things that I always said and still say is that what I didn't want to do was ever be in a situation with a mortgage where I could, if I had to work at Costco or CVS, right? And I feel like if I had two jobs, I needed to be able to pay my mortgage. But the thing for me was that I think that this advice that the billionaire gave later in life is basically what I was able to kind of try to figure out later, right? Which was take the equity, because the house I bought in 2002, I stayed in. And then about 10 years after that, so about 2012, it had built up a bunch of equity. So I was able to buy a second house. And then I was able to condense those two loans. And then I was able to wait another 5 years after that, or maybe a little bit, no, more than that, almost 10 years after that. And then I was able to build a third house with the equity. But my mortgage payment, and see, and this is the difference, I think, in what the guy was saying, my mortgage payment has not gone up exponentially. And I've got somebody renting two of the properties. So that's actually paying the mortgage. So I think that people have to be, I think, kind of strategic about what they do with their mortgage payments. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you should be strategic. I think everyone should make it a goal to at least own one property for your family. Just because rent prices are kind of out of this world. So basically you're paying the same thing for an apartment that you will be paying for a mortgage. So I think that if you're in an area where you're able to see if you can buy something, even if it's on the outskirts, I would highly recommend, getting on that in 2025 before prices go up even higher, because I don't think that they're going to come down anytime soon. I actually think that they're going to go higher, making that kind of impossible for the average person to be able to afford a home. So I think just maybe, like we talked about earlier, just sitting down, making a budget. If owning a home in 2025 is your priority, I would definitely say make that budget and then make it happen and figure out a way that you're able to get into the market. I will say, one of my friends always told me, like, don't, buy the home, marry the rate. I think that's what they say. Is buy the home, marry the rate. Yeah, so you can always, if rates are cut, you can always refinance and get a lower rate. So the prices to me is more important than.
Well, I mean, but that's it, right? So right now, the interest rate for home ownership is around around 6 to 7%, depending. I mean, and it's 6%, 5 to 7%, and that's you got good credit. And we're not even talking about if you have like kind of bad credit. And one of the other things I tell people too is to take advantage of every one of those programs that are out there. First time homeowners program. You've got what is it? Is the National Association of Housing has another first time homeowners program. You can go to classes, and if you go to the class, they'll match your down payment. And so there are all kinds of different programs. You can Google HUD.gov homeowner programs. And I really tell people they should invest in themselves by looking at what these programs are, because my interest rate on my loan is around 2.7%. That's a big difference from 5%, 6% to 7%. The other thing is, here's a question for you. You may be like, I don't know, but the other thing around home ownership is that most people go in and they say, I'm going to get a 30-year mortgage. And I always scream, why? And the reality is that the 30-year mortgage, and the history of the 30-year mortgage is that it was done for soldiers that were coming home so that they would be able to, from World War II, so that they would be able to buy a house. And because what they were coming home to was all of this new building, this new construction, but they didn't necessarily have jobs to support purchasing a home. And what the country wanted them to do was to be able to buy a home for their family and start the 2.2. That's where the house, car, and 2.2 kids came from. They wanted them to be able to buy all of these houses. So they structured these mortgages over 30 years for them. But the reality is, and this is anybody who's still listening to this that we haven't put to sleep yet, is that a 15-year mortgage is probably going to cost you $100 to $300 more a month, but you own your house in half the time. And you've always got to, if you're going out to look for a mortgage now, or you're going to go out and look for one in a year or 2 or 10, when you go to get that mortgage, ask them to run the numbers on a 30-year fixed and a 15-year fixed. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to be shocked with what the difference is in. And you'll have your house in 15 years.
Yeah, I agree. And then just to add on an extra, I also encourage people just to make an extra mortgage payment, because that in itself will lower your payment. Well, the amount you owe, your principal, it'll lower your principal down by a couple years. So just making one extra payment a year can change your life as well.
And if there are people out there that are actually still listening, feel free to ask questions, put them in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them, even though we kind of sound like we don't. But we if we will. Okay, so we've covered housing, we've covered kind of stock here, and we've covered a bit around Bitcoin. What's the future role, do you think, of AI in finance?
Oh, I think AI is really gonna have a big effect going into 2025. I think just same thing with Elon, like with the robots and things like that. I think that more companies are going to utilize those robots. I hate to say it, but to like kind of replace employees on paper, right? So if you have a robot that you're able to buy for $20,000 one time, that can be programmed to do things like distribution maybe, or box items or things like that. I think that is really going to elevate the space, but also take away jobs from a lot of different people in that sector.
But do you think that, if we are looking at the proposed level of, I'll put it this way, immigration challenges that we are supposed to come ahead, can AI in any way address the agricultural needs that we're going to have? Right? Can a robot pick the tomatoes?
Yeah, why can't it? Why can't it? So as I look at those demos and things like that, I think that is probably is possible to do, or some type of AI animation. Like even during manufacturing, they have some things that are AI already that are able to get done without the human hand. So I think that going into 2025, I'm curious to see how much more it expands. But I do think it's gonna be send a shockwave into the sectors for sure.
So we had a question that said, how do we make wise financial moves when the economy seems so shaky in the coming years? I think that this is the time that we're in.
Exactly. I would say do as much as you can. I would say maybe see what you can cut back on. I know when I first started investing, I didn't make six figures at all at the time. I think I made maybe $40,000 to $50,000, and I was still able to kind of save up that money. It was very tight. I will say it will be a challenge, but I will say just make sure that when you list out your budget, you see what you have left over, and then see if you're able to utilize that to save and get to the next level. I will say, whatever your job is, see if you can get more certifications, see if you can get more skill sets to get a higher paying job. I would say that's probably like the best advice that someone has given me, is just to add to your skill set and see if you can get a higher paying job to get you to that six figures if you don't already make six figures. And I think that'll definitely change your life.
And I think that also the question is like about the uncertainty that will happen, and I say that January 20th at 12:01, the whole world changes. And I think anybody that can tell you right now, today, here is what you do to be secure after 12:01 on January 20th, I'm going to tell you they're telling you a lie, because I don't think anybody knows. I don't think anybody knows the sustainability of the relationship with the president-elect and Elon Musk. I don't think anybody knows what that means to that sort of stock. I think that what I would say, when you think about kind of how do you prepare for such a shaky future, is that you have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. And I think that, there are some schools of thought that say, well, if you have a plan B, then you've not put all your energy into plan A. And I don't know that we can be that naive at this moment to say, yes, this is the way everything is going to go, because I think that we've got too many people that are volatile and in a role that is it can be decision making. Again, if the relationship between the president-elect and Elon Musk goes left, I don't know what that does to all of the stocks. So is it better, and this is why I say things like, not just to buy Tesla, but let's buy, what is it called, the American Battery Company, or whatever that battery company is that makes batteries for other electronic or e-vehicles, right? So that you're kind of covering your bases a little bit. Is it that you look at Tesla and say, well, if he gets mad at Tesla, will Rivian become his new best friend? I don't know, so I think that's one of the things with the economy, and with the not just the economy, but with the world. And I think that that's just it. I say that the other piece of this for me is that the geopolitical climate is the third rail in any decision I have to make. It is the third variable in any decision I have to make. If I'm making a decision about a stock, it's not just anymore what's happening in Tennessee or South Carolina. I've got to think about what's going on in Croatia, what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on here. How does that impact all of that? The reality is that we don't know if January 20th at 12:01 that the first executive order says that there's a 10% tariff. That changes the whole dynamic. I don't know if he says there's a 20% tariff on Mexico and on Canada, but not on China. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the for the person who asked the question, is that I think that we don't know until we know. at 12:01. I think the first 90 days to 120 days of the next administration will give us the indicator of what to do. But I think that you've given some of the most secure advice, which is to have a few things that are tight and secure in your portfolio. Again, we don't know what's going to happen with the real estate market because, again, the last article I read in the New York Times said that the president-elect intends to do a process of deportation that would affect 11 million people. Let's let the math start mathing here. So if you are going to if you're going to ask 11 million people en masse to leave the country, guess what? It turns out that 26% of those people are what? Working in the what industry? In the construction and building industry. So you lose a quarter of your building workforce overnight. What does that do to the housing market if that happens? Even if it's a slow drip and it doesn't all happen at one time. What if it happens? What happens to that's why the big agribusinesses were down in Mar-a-Lago. They were like, if you do this, this is going to have an impact. So I think that none of us know the answer to the speed in which some of this stuff is going to happen. But that is one of those things that I want to be very transparent and say. The other thing that shot up through the roof when the president-elect got elected was what? Bitcoin and for-profit prisons. Their stock went up. Right. So because I think that there's also the reality to what I think people are gambling on. Will you be able to make money on the plight of other people? And I think, unfortunately, in this country, we always have. The idea of the stock market. And then here we go. Now I'm going to get down in the weeds. But the stock market and bearer bonds, and I don't know if many people know this, but it was all based on the slave trade. Is that it was that the bearer bonds, which were the bonds and bearer bonds are like one of the most valuable bonds you can still have, right? Because it's literal current. Like if I come to your house and I steal your bearer bonds, you don't have a way to trace them. It was like the old Bitcoin, right? But what it was a way in which slaveholders who didn't have money could write a piece of paper and say, I'm going to get these slaves from you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work these slaves and they're going to work this land. And when they get done and I have that crop and I sell that crop, then I'm going to give you the money back that's the value of this piece of paper. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think that I don't know that we're there yet, but I think that we are going to be at a place where there's going to be a bunch of haves and a bunch of have-nots. And so I think that what do you do to prepare for such a shaky or unknown in the future is that you prepare for what I call the me and mine strategy. And you better take care of you and you better take care of yours, because I just don't know which way all of this is going to tumble. And now I'm going to let you talk because I just talked a lot.
No worries. Yeah. But like, I totally agree with you, with what you said. I think the safest strategy will be to make sure that you know your net worth, right? You know where you stand in the economy, and then you know what to adjust. So if you are a person who has a bunch of subscriptions, a bunch of like maybe bad spending habits or different things that you don't really utilize anymore, I think maybe when you sit down and do that budget, that'll help eliminate some of those items. That way you're able to save more money in this type of economy. Now, if you're a person, you're like, hey, I don't even have anything else to save, I think then that's when you need to focus on adding more skill set to your career path, or maybe looking at other career functions or adding certifications or doing whatever you can. I think the best advice someone told me was do whatever you can to get to $100,000 in a job or in any way that you can get to six figures. Make sure that you make that happen, regardless if you have to do certifications, regardless if you have to do volunteer work to do more networking with people. I think that was probably like the best advice, because once you get over a certain salary threshold, everything changes for you. I know a lot of people say 100K isn't any money, but that's a lot of money at the end of the day. Even $1,000 is a lot of money to most people, because most people don't have $1,000 saved, right? So it's easy for me to get on this platform and say, hey, invest your money and save and do this. But it's hard if you don't have the money to do that. So that's when you want to focus on your skill set. Just make sure you're finding like what you're good at and what's bringing you in profit, and then utilize that to make more money. So you want to use your job as a tool to get money, and then you want to utilize that money to make more money. And that's how you build wealth in the system.
And so so do you work a regular gig, or is this your only gig? Okay.
Nah, so I still work a regular 9-to-5 job. Yep. Yeah. So what I do basically is I utilize my 9-to-5 job. I pay myself, and then I take that money and I invest it into the stock market. So I was able to, I think I started investing with $500. I was able to take that to this year. I think the highest I've made is $130,000. But this was over the course of 4 years. So when you first start investing, you're not gonna make, unless you're trading stocks, but if you're buying holding stocks, you're not gonna just make $100,000 overnight, right? You have to be consistent. You have to be disciplined. So every single month for the last 4 years, I've done the same exact boring thing, which is buy a stock that I like, right? And so over time, this money has grown to 6 figures, but I've started with $500. And I've started that just to show the average 9-to-5 person that it's very possible to do. It just takes consistency, and it takes skill set to know like what you're doing and to study the market. So I think that's the most.
So you started with $500, but you're over 6 figures in your portfolio now.
Yes, correct. After I started in 2019, so it's like 5 years. 4
and so, but you don't just have stock; you have a diversification.
Exactly. So that's just in stocks. So I have a diversification. So I own real estate, I do stocks, and I do crypto. I think those 3 assets can definitely help elevate your wealth building, as well as give your kids or your family members, something to pass down.
Are you married?
No.
Because I'm only 32. Because I'm trying to tell you, because somebody gonna ask me, so I might as well just go. I just might as well go ahead and put it out here, because now to the people. People go.
Nobody asking about me.
The lies you tell. You're smart, you're funny, you got a little investment, you got your little cashmere sweat on.
That's too funny, man. But not married,
right? And so, but to ask the question though is that so how do you have a trust? Do you have a will? What do you have for I don't wish it on you, but but Wednesday don't come for everybody. So
I know. So I have life insurance, of course, and then next year, I'm actually working on getting a trust next year. I don't have a trust yet, so that's something that I actually am in the process of building. Me and my mother plan on doing that together next year. But I definitely have life insurance. I think that's super important to vocalize for everybody to get life insurance. Because I know that a lot of people within our community might not have that. And I think that's an important asset builder as well, because it gives your family, something to bury you with, as well as something to be able to cover your debts or anything else that you have, and give them a little extra because you're not there to provide as well. So I think that's super important.
And a lot of people don't know that a life insurance policy is in fact an asset that you could actually borrow against, and that you can actually cash in and get cash out of, depending on what type of life insurance policy you buy, or that you invest. Actually, that you invest in, and that you can do that multiple times. That you can leverage in and out of that as an investment tool.
Exactly. Yep, that as well. So I'm definitely working on the trust portion. But I also, while we're on this platform, I also say just make sure that you have a beneficiary on all of your stock accounts as well. So that makes it a lot easier for someone to be able to get access to your assets. Like if something was to happen to you, then your family inherits your portfolio or inherits your HSA account or anything like that. So it's super important to make sure that you have like payable upon death on all your bank accounts, as well as beneficiaries on all your stock accounts or crypto accounts or anything like
that. And so is your plan to cash it all out at one point? Or are you just gonna leave it there? Because I mean, I'm getting old. You and I got 30 years on you, and so I'm
so when you gonna cash out? What's your cash out?
My hand is on the easy button like this. I'm getting ready to hit that bad boy because I'm like, I'm gonna get ready to spend my money on strippers and blow. So I'm getting ready to cash in and go. I mean, and just and go wild. That's why I'm saying I don't want these people messing around trying to put my retirement money into crypto, because I'm figuring that and that's the thing, is that if the Social Security check is gone, because I don't see where your age is gonna get the Social Security.
Yeah, we're not gonna get it. Yeah, I personally don't think that we're gonna get it. So that's why I always encourage anyone my age to definitely invest heavy while you can, while you're young. So that your money can grow quicker, because there's no guarantee that we're going to be able to get that.
And let's talk about it for a minute, because we've got like 15 more minutes left. And again, if anybody has questions, please put them in the chat. And for those of you that have hung in there with us, thank you. Those of you that like stopped by and were like, who are these two crazy people? And thank you for stopping by. But that's the thing, right? I think with Social Security, the reality is that that's a part of the reason that I think Project 2025 is saying, hey, we want to take this money and invest it either in crypto or something else that will increase its value or increase the return on the investment. Because what the argument is that there are going to be more of us pulling on that resource to get a check every month than that are going to be able to pay into it. So by the time we all pull our money out, there is not going to be a whole bunch left. So what they're trying to figure out is how to get more return on that investment. And I don't know, I don't know that the idea of doing that through crypto or doing that through something else is the right way to go about it. I don't know. But I think that the idea of retirement, if you look at retirement programs across the world, again, keeping the geopolitical climate as our third variable in all decision making, or keeping it as a variable in all decision making, other countries seem to have a different strategy, right? That they just pay the senior citizens, but you also see that it has increased the overall country's deficit. And I don't know that the next group of folks really want us to focus on that.
Yeah. We agree. I think especially for my age group, there won't be a Social Security, sadly. And I hate that they take it out of my check because I won't get it, but but that's a part of the game and a part of the process.
Right. You know what I say?
What do you say?
Thanks.
Yeah, they need to go ahead and cut. No, I'm literally just joking, guys. But for sure, you just want to make sure. I think from this biggest takeaway, I would say, if you're new to investing, please focus on saving and building positions and less on return. Right. So starting off, you're going to see people on Instagram posting that they made maybe $10,000 or $5,000. And you want to just kind of block all of that out because they've probably been doing it for years and years. So when you're starting off, you just want to make sure that you're focused on your savings and then investing what else is outside of savings. So I always like to say your high yield savings account is your short-term investment, and then stocks and crypto is your long-term investment. So I would recommend, if you are going to invest, only invest what you don't need, right? So no emergency money, no bill money. I wouldn't take any risk with any of that money. I know most people won't say that, but I definitely recommend just anything extra outside of your emergency fund should be invested into the market. Make sure that you do a lot of research before you just pick a stock. Make sure that you like the stock and that you have some kind of conviction in it. And I think that you'll do fine. I know there's a scary stigma about stocks because they go up and down and then you see your money fluctuate, but that is truly the only way to build wealth and to keep up with inflation at this point.
Right. No, I told somebody, last week I opened up my account and that thing said negative $7,929. You see, I remember the number exactly. Right. And I was like, what? $7,000 in a day? I'm like, and then again, I'm like, that's not strippers and blow. That's somebody else just took my money.
Yep.
And so, and I think and that's exactly it. I think that the market right now is volatile.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is going up and down. I think that, but I think that if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a financial plan, and that's why I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do it right after Christmas because you spend up your Christmas money. And, and I wanted to do it before the first of the year because you still have time. And when I say you still have time, that you have time between now and some of these things close by January 15th. Making sure that you've maxed out your Roth IRA, making sure that you've maxed out your 401k. Yes. But some of them go up to like your health savings account goes up to the day you have to file your taxes, not the day before you file your taxes, not up until January 15th. So it's really important to also sit down with someone and say, what of these things can I max out? And and I don't recommend like borrowing money to max it out because then you got to pay it back. You got to pay it about on a higher interest rate. But I do recommend figuring out what are the maximum withdrawals that you can take. Again, and we didn't talk a lot about it. And maybe this is the thing that we should really end on. Mm-hmm. Why it is critical that you pay yourself first, that you pay yourself first. There's your budget, but one of the line items, and I'll never forget, I told you there's again, we have it on Bulldagger Chronicles, this interview that I did with Lori, my financial planner. And I met Lori sitting outside of a coffee shop in DC. And I was sitting out there eating ice cream, having a coffee and smoking a cigarette. I don't smoke anymore. And I still eat ice cream and drink coffee. But she came out and introduced herself and we started talking. And people may not know this, but Ben and Jerry's used to give all of their local ice cream shops to nonprofit organizations. And that was their contribution. And the organization would run the ice cream shop and they were able to keep the proceeds. So it gave the kids the opportunity to do work and that sort of thing. And Lori, I think at the time, was the treasurer for, I think it was the Latino Youth Center in DC or something like that. And she came out and on the back of a napkin, she said, what's your rent? What's your this? What's your that? And I wrote, and I was telling her, and I was like, lady, look, I make $23,000 a year. I got nothing to save. And what she did is that she did move $50 up to the top of that list. And she just wrote self next to it. And she said, you pay yourself this money first. She said, and we're going to set it up so that the money goes immediately out of your account first before it hits your other account. And then rent and all these other bills get paid. So I think that I've always tried to live my life like that since that is that I pay myself first. And that's when I get my paycheck every 2 weeks, because like you, I have a job. I have money that goes out of my account that I really never see. I see my primary checking account and I see my primary savings account on my phone. But my other accounts, I don't have them on my phone like that. I have to go to sit down at my computer and look at those accounts if I want to check them. Because I think it's so easy when you see it right there. Go, girl, I could use those shoes right now. I could do this. I could do that. and it doesn't let you necessarily save the way you should save or can save, and that sort of thing. How do you pay yourself first?
I would say so. I kind of budget out how much I'm going to pay myself each time. So I look at all my bills. I make sure those are kind of covered, and then whatever I have left over, I'm real tight on my budget. So I'll give myself maybe a couple of $100 for 2 weeks. Like it might sound impossible or crazy, and if I need more, I'll transfer over. But I keep it really strict. I think anything extra, I send over to stocks and investment every time. But I think that comes with experience and discipline over time, because when I first started, I sucked at it. Maybe a couple of times I skipped a couple of weeks. But when you stay in the like a consistent program for yourself, like, hey, every 2 weeks I'm gonna pay myself every maybe $300, $400, $500 a week, or however you want to do it. So I also do a savings challenge. So every year in All Hustle University, we do a savings challenge from $5,000 to $20,000. So it comes with a chart, and then we just follow the chart weekly. So I also help use that to pay myself as well. So that's what I've been doing with my group. It's kind of like a challenge that I do with them, just to make sure that they're staying consistent, and that I'm showing them too, like, hey, I'm doing the same thing as you, so that we can all do it together. So I think that that's like a useful tool that I use. So any budgeting tool you have, any like graph or chart that you can find online that says like, hey, I want to save maybe $5,000 at the end of the year, and then you just utilize that chart and then use that to pay yourself every 2 weeks.
Right. And so should people, or should I, and let's use me as the example. So should I have a cash goal, an investment goal, or and like a retirement account goal, or how would you tell people to map it out?
I would, if you're a beginner, I would say map it out one at a time. So if you notice that you might not have a large savings, I would say build toward that first and then invest second. So maybe spend 2025 reaching up to your savings goal. Maybe your savings goal is 10,000. And then the following year, you can still save, but you can utilize that 10,000 to buy and invest in stocks. If you've already met, your goal that you want, maybe keep 5 in the savings account, maybe invest 5. I would have to say it's all tailored to your lifestyle and your personal finances. But I would say do one at a time. I would never say do all 3. So when I first started investing, I didn't have a lot of savings. So my goal was to save $20,000 a year, right? So I stayed in some nights. I said no to some people. I didn't give Christmas gifts some years until I could get up to that goal. And then the next year, my goal was, hey, I want to make sure I have this amount invested. Then I build toward that investment goal. And then it was the following year, it's like, hey, I want to have this much inside of my crypto account, or this much inside of my stock account, or anything like that. So I think maybe sticking to one and then building off of that. So I don't recommend doing all 3, because that's just going to be a headache and it's going to be a little bit stressful. So I will say focus on one at a time, whatever is tailored to your lifestyle or where you are.
Right. Well, I mean, we are 5 minutes away from the
I know, you're sweating my little hair out.
We're 5 minutes away. Can you slowly tell the people your website again?
Yeah, it's going to be www.allhustleuniversity.com. You can find the courses there, as well as any other information that you need. We have merch and things like that as well. If you just want to follow our Instagram page, it's All Hustle University. And then you'll be able to join the group that way with a link in our bio. So anyone who's interested, it's open to new investors, advanced investors. We walk you through hands-on. We teach you about the different accounts that you can set up. I give you my 2025 stock picks. I give you reasoning about them every day, and kind of market and pre-market updates. So that's kind of the gist of the group. Even if you're nervous, you can DM me. We can talk about it before you join, or you can DM Toni about it. So that's definitely something that I'm opening back up in January the 1st.
Okay, now listen, and I know I'm putting you on the spot when I say what I'm about to say. Can we get, so you said this is $60 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get a little promo code if they if they come through Bulldagger they pay $50 a month or $55. Can we do something for the people?
Yeah, we can do something for the people. So just I would say tell them, I would say everybody DM Toni if you would like a discount, and then I can set that up for you. So my group actually opens back up January 1st. So I'll set up a discount code for anyone that's joining through Bulldagger Chronicles so that we can get you guys in the group at a cheaper rate.
Okay, there you go. Look at me. I'm hustling for me and mine. Always hustling hard for me and mine. Right? But we've been trying to do this for over a year. And I know you've been super busy going to Paris buying cashmere sweaters, and flying around the world looking for presidential Rolexes. I had to get a little one. I couldn't get out there. But all right. So, and maybe what I'd like to do is I'd like to set a challenge for me and say that I would like to, and let's figure this out. Let me try to figure this out right now. Because I don't know. I mean, I'm not consistent enough where I'm going to join your class, but I think that I do want to say, I would like to have over 20K in Bitcoin by the end of 2025. I'm not there now. And I could probably tell you where I'm at.
That's a good goal. That's a good goal to have. So I agree with that.
So all right. So let me just say that I would like to increase. I'll rephrase that. I would like to increase my investment in Bitcoin by $20,000 from today. And so I'm gonna speak that into being. And I think that can be in a ETF with Bitcoin in it, or in Coinbase itself, because I've not been consistent. And so that's what I'm gonna ride your belief, because I don't believe it. But I'm gonna go with your
10 years time.
I might be dead by then. Yeah, I'm old.
It's 10 years time, man.
I might be unalived by then.
I think definitely 250 by probably the end of 2025. But crypto goes in cycles. So right now we're in a really good cycle. So I think right now is the time to profit. I think by March 2025 we're gonna have some downward trends. So I think right now is a good time to just get in and profit. But if you're waiting on Bitcoin, I would say maybe give it some time to where it cools back. I think right now it's actually down. So now would be a great time. So just remember that red means buy, green means chill. That's how I like to tell people. So you just want to make sure you're utilizing your red days. So anytime you hear people talking bad about it or saying that the market's down, that's the time that you want to execute and jump in.
Perfect. Again, thank you so much for doing this with me. I know you're very busy, but no, I wasn't even being funny this time. I mean, I was being.
Oh God, man! Before we wrap up, I wrote down some goals for anybody who wants to give themselves a challenge, right? So I would say make it a goal to have a plan to plan a clear monthly budget for 2025. Make sure that your credit card balances are kept under 30% of the available limit. And making sure that you have basic understanding of investment after this class. I challenge everybody who's been listening, everybody who's been tuning in, to just definitely do your research. If you heard any stock that we said, or if you're interested in Bitcoin, definitely research before you do your investing, of course.
Again, I want to thank you. And maybe what I can do is, maybe if I can catch you, I can twist your arm and we can get you back here in April, and we can see where I am with my goal of my core, because by then I should probably have at least a 5K investment from where I am today, in the Bitcoin.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's do it. Let's come back in the quarter, and then that'll be right before tax time, and everybody will be in a panic about what to do.
Sounds good, my friend. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody have an amazing night. Good night, boys and girls. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. And thank you for those of you that stayed on. I'm going to go on TikTok now and try to find a date like I do every night.
Perfect.